Imagine you are looking at a photograph of yourself from 30 years ago. Does that person feel like you, or does it feel like an actor playing a role in a play you no longer recognize? Honestly, it is a question of narrative identity that most of us struggle with at some point.
That is such a profound way to start, Ariel. Today, we are exploring a really unique text, a personal chronicle from someone who identifies as Yahshao, the Hmong king. He traces a journey from 1993 all the way to 2026, focusing on a pivotal relationship with a woman named Anice.
Wait, let me jump in here. We are looking at a story about a 2-month marriage that happened decades ago. I mean, Emery, from a psychological perspective, why are we still dissecting a relationship that lasted only 60 days? It feels like a long time to hold on to a story, right?
That is exactly what makes this so fascinating, Mike. It is not just about the duration. It is about the meaning Yahshao has assigned to it. He views it as a spiritual curriculum, a game that had to be played out. He is not just gossiping. He is trying to share a truth that he believes is essential for healing.
Exactly, Ariel. Yahshao describes himself as someone who hears a small voice whispering in the atmosphere. This internal guidance told him that every encounter, including the one with Anice, was a new story or a new experience designed by a higher power, his father, Abraxas.
Abraxas, that is a heavy name. It has roots in Gnostic traditions, representing a god who encompasses both good and evil, light and dark. So is Yahshao claiming a divine lineage here? It sounds like he is framing his personal life as a cosmic drama.
He absolutely is. He mentions playing in a church band called White Cross back in 1993. That is where it all began. He describes himself as a church young man, but even then, there was this sense of a larger destiny at play. Emery, what do you make of the White Cross era?
It sets a foundation of purity and devotion. He tells Anice that her love was pure and holy. It is interesting because he does not blame her for the eventual breakdown. He says they were just actors for this journey. It is a very deterministic worldview, where the pain was necessary for the unfair judgment to be caught.
But isn't that a bit of an easy out? If everyone is just an actor, does anyone have agency? Mike here is wondering if this destiny talk is just a way to cope with the pain of being rejected. He mentions she let him go after just a week of meeting, then came back, then they married and divorced in 2 months.
It is a roller coaster, for sure. But look at how he describes her. He talks about her teeth, specifically her front teeth, and how he wanted to touch them. It is such a raw human detail in the middle of all this talk about gods and kings. It makes the spiritual claims feel more grounded in real affection.
That detail about the teeth is actually quite significant, Ariel. It shows a deep, tactile appreciation for her as a person. He says he did everything, even the mundane things, for the moment he is in right now, creating this podcast or message to ensure she lives healthy and happy forever.
Okay, but let's talk about the alligator pond metaphor. He says he felt like a mouse in a pond surrounded by alligators. He's talking about her parents, right? He mentions the Hmong New Year in Sacramento and feeling the disrespect from her family. That sounds like a classic case of in-law tension, not just cosmic karma.
It's both, Mike. He's acknowledging the cultural and familial pressures. He claims her parents played the game for her, pushing her toward an ex-boyfriend who came to town. He felt their disrespect through his heart. It's a very sensitive way of experiencing social dynamics.
And he uses the term karma specifically. He suggests that the things we create in life are often the karma our families caught. He's looking at the relationship through a generational lens. In many cultures, and certainly within the Hmong community, the family's role in a marriage is massive.
Right, But he says he could hear everyone's thoughts in that car in Sacramento. That's a bold claim. Is he suggesting he has telepathic abilities? Or is he just very tuned into the body language and the vibe of the room? It sounds like he felt incredibly isolated in that moment.
He felt isolated and unheard, Mike. He says he was crying for comfort deep in his heart. That image of a young man in a car, surrounded by people who don't respect him, while he's silently grieving, that's a powerful aha moment for the listener. We've all felt like that mouse at some point.
And then we get to the vision. This is where the narrative shifts from a sad love story to something metaphysical. He describes an out-of-body experience where he flies to the roof of Anice's school. He sees her writing a paper, and he says he can see through her body to her bumping heart.
Wait, let's slow down. He's on the roof looking through her body, and he sees her writing that she regrets what happened because of her parents? Emery, how do we interpret this? Is this a dream, a hallucination, or a genuine spiritual vision in the context of his belief system?
In the context of the text, he presents it as a vision given by his father, Abraxas. It's his way of finding closure. He needed to believe that she still loved him, and that the breakup wasn't her choice, but her parents'. It's a way to preserve the purity of their love in his mind.
Exactly, Ariel. It serves a psychological function, but for Yahshao, it is a literal truth. He says life is just a balance of black and white. By seeing her regret in the vision, he balances the black of the divorce with the white of her true feelings. It allows him to forgive.
But then there's the money. He mentions losing a lot of money spent for the bride's family. In many traditional cultures, a wedding is a massive financial undertaking. To lose that after only 2 months, that's a lot of real-world stress to just forgive away.
He says, "I forgive for everything, I don't bother." That is a very king-like stance, isn't it? To be above the material loss. He focuses instead on the 2 men in white cloth at the gate and the angels of death. He's moving the conversation from the bank account to the afterlife.
The imagery of the 2 angels of death walking with 4 people, 2 men and 2 women, is quite striking. Abraxas tells him, "Just do your jobs and more will come." It suggests that his suffering was a prerequisite for some kind of spiritual promotion or job he has to perform.
It sounds like he's framing himself as a martyr. He mentions the gossip, people saying he hit her or kicked her, which he denies. He says she created a difficult life for him because of those rumors. That's a heavy burden to carry for 30 years, Ariel.
It is, Mike. But look at the shift in the end. He says, "Once you know how the game is played, you don't enjoy it anymore." That's such a weary, wise sentiment. He's saying he's seen behind the curtain. He understands the mechanics of karma and family and actors, and now he's just done with the drama.
And he ends with a blessing. He tells Anice she will live a healthy life because she has pieces of Abraxas in her. He's reclaiming his power not by attacking her, but by bestowing a blessing upon her. He's acting as the Hmong king he claims to be.
I have to admit, it's a fascinating way to process trauma. Instead of being a victim of a short, failed marriage and a messy divorce, he becomes a central figure in a cosmic play. But I still wonder, Emery, is this a healthy way to move on? By turning your ex into a goddess and yourself into a king?
That's the core of the learn category today, isn't it? How do we use narrative to survive? If the truth is too painful, that a marriage just didn't work, maybe the higher truth of spiritual destiny is what allows a person to keep their heart open.
I think you're right, Ariel. He's not trying to embrace her or gossip, as he says at the start. He's trying to release the energy. He even mentions a married man calling him back in the day, telling him to find a new girlfriend because he was young. There were so many outside voices in their relationship.
That phone call from the married man is so weirdly specific. Yahshao, can you do me a favor? Go look for a new girlfriend. It sounds like the whole community was involved in their business. No wonder it only lasted 2 months. It's hard to build a marriage when everyone has a key to your front door.
Exactly. And Yahshao's response was to sit in a park, holding her pictures, crying so much. The tears buried the photos. He even apologized to the picture for making it dirty. That is such a tender, heartbreaking image of a young man in pain.
It really is. And now in 2026, he's looking back at that boy in the park with a sense of distance. He's saying, I know who I am now. He's found his identity in Yahshao and Abraxas. He's transformed the mouse into a king.
But what about the entertainment purposes only disclaimer at the end? Does that undermine everything he just said? Or is that just a legal shield for the intense spiritual claims he's making?
I think it's a bit of both, Mike. It's a nod to the modern world we live in. He's sharing a deeply personal, spiritual testimony, but he knows how it sounds to an outsider. By adding that, he's almost saying, believe it or not, this is my story.
It also highlights the play or game aspect he mentioned earlier. If life is a game, then his story is a form of entertainment, a narrative to be consumed and learned from. It doesn't make the emotions any less real.
So, if we're learning from this, what's the takeaway? Is it that we should all view our exes as goddesses playing a role in our spiritual development? Honestly, that might make breakups a lot easier to handle.
Maybe that is the aha moment, Mike. The idea that we can choose the lens through which we view our past. We can be the victim of a divorce, or we can be a king who learned a hard lesson in a cosmic game. One of those stories leads to bitterness. The other leads to the kind of peace Yahshao seems to have found.
And that peace is what he wants for Anice too. He says, I want to share the whole picture so that you live healthy and happy forever. He's using his narrative to set her free from the guilt he believes she carries. It's an act of radical forgiveness.
I mean, it's definitely a unique perspective. I'm still stuck on the school roof vision, though. If he really felt he was out of his body, that's a life-changing event. It changes your entire concept of reality. You can't just go back to being a guy in a band after that.
Exactly. It's the transcendental aspect. He's not just living in the Hmong community in Sacramento anymore. He's living in a world where he can fly and see through bodies. That kind of shift explains why he's still talking about this 30 years later. It wasn't just a breakup. It was an awakening.
And the mention of the two marriage, it's a bit unclear, but it seems like he might be referring to the intensity of their 2 months together, or perhaps a second marriage later on. Regardless, the focus remains on this initial journey with Anice as the catalyst.
It's interesting how he mentions the gossip again toward the end. Some say I hit you, kick you. Some say you are the good person and I was the evil one. He's very aware of his reputation. It seems like this podcast or message is his way of finally setting the record straight, but in a spiritual way rather than a defensive one.
Right. He's not saying, I didn't do it in a courtroom. He's saying, I was playing a game I knew how to play. He's reframing the evil label into a role. It's like he's saying, you can call me the villain, but I know I'm the king.
And that final line, Abraxas say, don't you touch my son Yahshao, amen. That is a powerful declaration of protection. He feels shielded by his divine father. It's a complete reversal from the mouse surrounded by alligators.
So, Ariel, if someone listening is going through a similar struggle, feeling judged by their community or family, what can they take from Yahshao's story without necessarily adopting the Abraxas theology?
I think the lesson is about the power of the internal voice. Yahshao says he hears a whisper in the atmosphere, and his heart can hear through his mind. Whether you call that intuition, God, or just your own inner wisdom, listening to that instead of the alligators around you is key to survival.
And also the idea of life as a series of experiences rather than failures. A 2-month marriage that ends in divorce is usually labelled a failure, but Yahshao calls it an experience and a journey. That shift in vocabulary changes everything.
I like that. It's less about the outcome and more about what the experience was meant to teach you. Even if the teacher is an alligator-filled pond in Sacramento.
Exactly. Let's dig a bit deeper into the timeline. 1980s to 2026. That is a 33-year span. He is writing from a future perspective, or at least a perspective that looks toward 2026. It suggests that this story isn't over for him.
It's a long-term arc. He's looking at his life as a complete work of art. The 1993 version of him was the church young man, and the 2026 version is the Hmong king. It's a hero's journey, really. He had to go through the death of his marriage and his reputation to be reborn.
Wait, let's talk about the White Cross Band again. Music is such a big part of how we process things. He mentions he played for the church. Do you think the music helped him hear that small voice? Emery, is there a connection between music and this kind of spiritual sensitivity?
Oh, definitely. Music often bypasses the rational mind and goes straight to the heart. He says his heart can hear through his mind. That's a very musical way of describing intuition. The rhythm of the game might be something he felt before he understood it.
And the name White Cross, it's so symbolic of sacrifice and faith. It's like he was already preparing himself for a kind of martyrdom. But then he realizes he's not just a sacrifice, he's a king. He moves from the cross to the crown, so to speak.
I'm still thinking about Anice. He calls her a goddess who played the role of this creation. It's a very high honor to give someone who, from a certain perspective, left you and let people gossip about you. It takes a lot of strength to see your enemy as a goddess.
It really does, Mike. It's the ultimate aha moment. When you stop seeing people as obstacles and start seeing them as catalysts. Anice wasn't the cause of his damage. She was the one who began the small journey. She was the spark.
And he acknowledges her pain too. He says, "You might hate yourself for all the damage in the past." He's extending empathy to her, suggesting that she might be suffering from the same game they both played. He's not the only victim in his eyes.
That's a good point, Emery. He says, everything is to catch the unfair judgment. It's like they were both caught in a trap set by the family and the community, and he's finally opening the cage for both of them.
Exactly. Let's talk about the key to the dream of love. He says meeting a king is holding the key. He's offering her, and perhaps the audience, a way back to believing in love, despite the black and white of life. He's saying that even a failed 2-month marriage can be a dream come true if you see it correctly.
It's about the quality of the moment, not the quantity of time. That 1 week they first met, he describes it as a new heaven. For a week, he was in paradise. Most people never get that, even in a 40-year marriage. He's choosing to focus on the heaven rather than the divorce.
I like that perspective. It's about being grateful for the new heaven, even if it's short-lived. But honestly, the 20 or 30 calls he made that she didn't answer, that sounds like a lot of anxiety. He's being very honest about his own desperation in that moment.
He is. He's not painting himself as a perfect stoic king back then. He was a hurting young man. I was hurting, just want to cry, sitting by myself alone at the park. He's showing us the raw materials that the king was built from. You can't have the crown without the tears.
And that's the educational part of this, right? We often see the finished product of someone's spiritual path, the calm, the forgiveness, and we forget the park bench and the dirty photographs. Yahshao is giving us the whole map.
It's a map that includes Sacramento, a church band, a school roof, and a god named Abraxas. It's a very specific personal map, but the terrain of heartbreak and recovery is universal.
So, as we wrap up this first part of our discussion, I want to think about that small voice again. Mike, Emery, if you had to listen for that voice in your own lives, what do you think it would be saying about your past games?
I think it would say that every detour was actually the main road. Every failed project or relationship was just a chapter in a much larger book I'm still writing. Like Yahshao, I'm starting to see the actors and the roles more clearly.
For me, I think the voice would say, stop worrying about the alligators. We spend so much time trying to please the people around us, the parents, the community, that we forget we're the ones playing the game. We have to own our role.
That's a great takeaway. We're the ones playing the game. And whether we're a mouse or a king, the story is ours to tell. Yahshao chose to tell a story of forgiveness and divine purpose. And in doing so, he's created a new heaven for himself in 2026.
It's also important to note the cultural context here. The Hmong experience, particularly in places like Sacramento, involves a very tight-knit community. The gossip he mentions isn't just noise, it's a social force. Breaking free from that by identifying as a king is a radical act of self-determination.
Right. It's a way of saying, you don't define me. My father Abraxas defines me. It's a shift from social identity to spiritual identity. And that's something anyone can do, regardless of their background. You can choose who your father is, in a metaphorical sense.
Exactly. You can choose the authority you answer to. Yahshao answers to a voice in the atmosphere, not the voices in the car in Sacramento. That's a powerful form of freedom.
And he's not just doing it for himself. He says he's sharing this so that you live healthy and happy forever. He's trying to ripple that freedom out to Anice. Even after 30 years, he's still trying to be a source of healing for her. That's a very long-term commitment to love.
It's a bit obsessive, but in a beautiful way. Like, he's still thinking about her teeth, but he's channeled that obsession into a blessing. It's a transformation of energy. Instead of stalking or being bitter, he's podcasting. He's creating a digital monument to their journey.
A digital monument. I like that, Mike. It's a way of saying, this happened. It was real. It was holy. And now, it is finished. He's closing the loop. He's giving the story an ending that works for him.
And an ending that works for her too. By calling her a goddess, he's giving her a way to look back at her own youth without shame. He's saying, you weren't a bad person for leaving, you were a goddess fulfilling a prophecy.
It's a very kind way to rewrite history. I wonder how Anice would feel if she heard this. Would she feel relieved, or would she be like, wait, who is Abraxas?
Probably a bit of both. But the emotion behind it, the pure and holy love, is unmistakable. You don't have to understand the theology to feel the sincerity. He's reaching out across 3 decades to say, I'm okay, and I want you to be okay too.
And that brings us back to the start, the person in the photograph. Yahshao has integrated that hurting young man in the park into the king he is today. He hasn't rejected his past, he's enriched it.
So, what's the final lesson here? Is it that we should all write a podcast script for our exes from 1993?
Maybe not literally, but the lesson is to find the king or queen within your own story. To take the unfair judgments and the alligator ponds and turn them into a narrative of growth and spiritual authority. to listen to the small voice that tells you who you really are.
And to remember that life is a balance of black and white. You can't have the new heaven without the angels of death sometimes. It's all part of the same creation.
I'm going to be thinking about that mouse and the alligators for a long time. It's such a vivid image of social anxiety. But I'm glad the mouse found his wings and flew to the roof of the school.
Me too, Mike. It's a story of transcendence, from the ground to the roof, from the park bench to the throne. It's a journey we're all on, in one way or another.
And it's a journey that requires us to be actors for a while until we're ready to be the authors. Yahshao has finally picked up the pen.
Or the microphone. Honestly, I'm impressed by the scope of it. 1993 to 2026. That's a lot of life to cover in one message, but he did it.
He did. And he did it for entertainment purposes only, which just might be the most spiritual thing of all. To see the drama of life and still be able to call it a game or entertainment. That's true mastery.
Exactly. It's the ultimate aha moment, realizing that the stakes are high, but the play is what matters. The experience is the reward.
Well, I'm definitely entertained, and a little more thoughtful about my own front teeth moments in life. Those small human things that stick with us forever.
We all have them, Mike, and we all have an abraxas, or a small voice, waiting to tell us the next part of the story. So to our listeners, what is your story telling you today?
Are you the mouse, the alligator, or the king? Maybe you're all three at different times. The goal is to find the balance between them.
And maybe to check the roof of your old school every now and then. You never know who might be looking down with a blessing.
That's a beautiful thought to end on. Thank you, Emery, and thank you, Mike, for diving into this with me. It's been a truly unique journey through time and spirit.
Thank you, Ariel. It has been a pleasure to analyze such a rich, personal text. There is so much more to explore in the idea of narrative healing.
Yeah, thanks, Ariel. I'm going to go listen to some 90s church band music and think about karma. See you next time.
Wait, before we go, I just want to reread that one line. Anice, remember, life is just balance, black and white. It's so simple, but so hard to live by. We always want it to be all white, don't we?
We do, but without the black, the white has no definition. You can't see the stars without the dark sky. Yahshao's black moments, the divorce, the gossip, are what make his white moments of vision and kingship so bright.
It's the contrast that creates the picture. I get it now. The whole picture he wanted to share with her. It's not just the happy parts, it's the whole thing. The wedding money lost and the new heaven found.
Exactly. The whole picture. That is the king's perspective. And that is a perspective we can all strive for. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll be back soon with more stories that challenge and inspire.
Take care of your pieces of abraxas, everyone. See you soon.
And watch out for alligators. But if you see one, just remember, you might be a king in disguise. Bye.
I mean, think about the courage it takes to say, I am the Hmong king, in a world that often wants to keep us small. It's not just about a title. It's about a state of mind. It's about refusing to be the mouse any longer.
It's a reclamation of identity. In the Hmong culture, the idea of kingship has deep historical and mythical roots. By stepping into that role, he's connecting himself to a lineage of strength. He's saying his life has historical weight.
And he's doing it through a podcast, or a podcast-style message. It's using the tools of the modern world to express an ancient kind of truth. I think that's why it feels so TED Talk-like. It's a synthesis of the old and the new.
It really is. Created by the Hmong king Yahshao. It's a signature that carries a lot of pride. And honestly, after everything he's been through, the alligator pond, the angels of death, the tears on the pictures, he's earned that pride.
He's earned the right to tell his own story, and we've been honored to listen to it. It's a reminder that every life, no matter how short the marriage or how long the gossip, is an epic in the making.
An epic with a 1993 soundtrack. I love it. Okay, now I'm really ready to go. I've got some acting to do in my own game today.
Go for it, Mike. And remember, keep an eye out for those aha moments. They're everywhere if you're listening. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Yahshao and Anice. Until next time, keep seeking the truth behind the story.
Stay curious and stay healthy, just like Yahshao wished for Anice. Goodbye.
Peace out, everyone.
Wait, I just thought of one more thing. The teeth. Why the teeth? It's such a specific obsession. Is there some deeper meaning there, or is it just a quirk?
Well, teeth are often symbols of vitality and strength. In some cultures, they are seen as the gatekeepers of the soul. But honestly, Ariel, I think it's just a beautiful example of how love fixates on the most specific, unique parts of a person. It makes her real.
It's the human and the divine. He's a king. He's a son of Abraxas. But he's also just a guy who really liked his wife's smile. And that's the most relatable part of the whole thing. We all have that one thing we remember about someone.
That is so true. It's the anchor that keeps the whole cosmic story from floating away. The front teeth. It's perfect. Okay, now we are officially done. Thanks again, guys.
You're welcome, Ariel. It was a great discussion.
Definitely. See ya.